right, so I'm putting you on the spot. So last year I sold 9 houses.
Yep.
I did $7 million in sales, and I'm at 2 closed and no escrows right now, and it's almost July 1st.
Yep.
Ring, ring, ring. Hello.
Hey, Tom, this is Lisa with Chinatti Realty. How are you?
Hey, Lisa, what's going on?
Well, listen, Tom, I'm reaching out because I know that you are a super successful agent in the greater Boston area. I know last year you had an amazing year, and we've got a really great opportunity that's opened up as our lead generation has really increased heading into the summer market. Something that I've been hearing from agents much like yourself is that if you only had more opportunities directly face-to-face with somebody who's looking to buy or sell in today's market with the rates where they're at, that would be beneficial to you. Would you be open to a conversation about how this could help you?
Are you recruiting me right now? Is this a recruiting call?
Potentially. If I have some options that will help you increase your business, earn more money, and potentially have a little bit more fun, would it be worth 5 or 10 minutes?
Now, for my listener, I was literally sitting there thinking about what would it be like to have had 7 paychecks and be sitting here in June having a conversation with my wife and kids about summer plans. I've only had 2 closings. I have no listings. I have no escrows. And I I was just staying in that, and you're like, and there's just an opportunity opened up, leads, appointments. It's hard to say no to that. What are the most common objections you get with a line like that, or an opening statement like that? Has there ever been a time when you heard myself or someone else you respect? I hope you respect me. You're watching my show, you must. Has there ever been a time when you heard someone look you directly in the eyes and say, I am talking to you, you need to do this, and you just didn't hear it? You just didn't hear it. But maybe just after a couple nights of sleep, or maybe having some conversations with friends, all of a sudden you realized, hey, she or he was talking exactly to me. Well, that was a moment that you and I had. Say hello to my friend, Lisa Chinatti. It's like 3rd or 4th time on the show. Ish. February of this year, I was standing in front of several thousand of our clients, and I was saying to them, this is going to be a hard year. Now, everything about real estate in a good market or a bad market is hard, but we are now in a cycle called high interest rate, incredibly low inventory, mixed with 60, 70% of the people that have a mortgage have a 3 on it to start, and 40% of Americans have no mortgage at all. Translate that to your numbers around the world, that this is going to be a hard work. And if you have the audacity to think that you're not going to have to work harder, make more phone calls, be more disciplined, apply more effort every single day, then you're going to struggle in this market. And you, my friend, said what while I was saying this?
I mean, the journey of it, yeah. I'm going to go back a little bit further. I'm going to go to October.
At
the team event in October. And I remember you saying, you've got to make your calls. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And there were pieces of the you've got to do this, you've got to do that I took away and implemented.
Yes, always.
The very personal ones.
Yes.
More about like personal development and less about professional development.
Yeah.
And in October, I was listening under the lens of, I don't do that anymore. I've achieved a certain level. I've hit a certain point, and that doesn't apply to me anymore.
Yes.
And so in February at the Elite event, I think it was like the second day, and I don't remember what the exact moment was, and I don't remember what the exact verbiage was, but it was a giant 4-letter word moment.
Lightning rod. Bang.
Totally.
Yeah.
It was the way that you said it or something about it. And I was like, holy cow, that really does apply. And if I don't internalize this and if I don't take action, I'm going to be in trouble.
So give the listener context, right? You have this wildly successful team Ridge, right? Chinatti Real Estate Group.
Yep.
At that point in February, how many agents did you have on the team?
I think in February, it would have been like 70 to 75.
Okay. So still by most people's stretch, that's a good size office,
100%.
Right? It's a good size team. It's an enormous team. It's a good size office.
Yep.
And the point that I was trying to make, and for you listening, it is acknowledging that, again, we're in a cycle right now. Real estate's only about two things: population growth and cycles. We've got no issue with population growth pretty much in most, countries around the world. Like we're having more and more kids, more and more people moving. The challenge we have is we have this challenging cycle.
Yep.
And what I was trying to express to you, and then I want you to unpack what you did, because that's really the magic here, is that if you're not willing to do the extra effort,
Correct.
right? If you're not willing to say, this is for me. I get memed all the time now, Lisa. Like, literally had a funny one a couple of days ago. Someone like, every time Tom Ferry says, make my phone calls. And like, I think they had like 3 bottles set up and they were like, whoo. And they're like, we know we're supposed to make our phone. But like I love it. They're making fun of me for saying, if you don't work in this environment, you're going to be in trouble. And I'm just speaking the truth. What did you personally start to do? And let's talk about the sort of reimagining of your schedule, your work life, like what you had to do. So talk to us.
Well, so it was, I think, understanding that there are still, I was coming at it of the lens of, I pay people to do all of these different things, right? Like there's salespeople. I have people that do recruiting for me.
Yes.
I have people that do all these different things. And typically I think that they're better than me, which is why they have these jobs.
Right,
and so
right.
I was drunk monkeying that, like, I don't have to sell. I don't have to recruit. I don't have to whatever. But this goes back even further from the business owner perspective of understanding that in my business, my first level client is my agent.
Yes.
And how I really move the needle in the company is through increasing my first customer, which is agents, agent count.
Help them sell more houses and bring in more people.
Right.
Yep.
And so it was this epiphany that make your calls, maybe isn't call the buyers and call the sellers.
Correct.
But make your calls is make sure you're growing your company.
Yes.
Make sure you're keeping where our baseline income comes from healthy and sustainable.
Right. So, and again, for the person listening, that was beautiful. It is, I'm not saying to you cold call. I'm saying to you, when you shake the tree, somewhere in Apple Falls. But if you're hungry and you're not shaking the tree, that's on you.
Correct.
Always and forever.
Yep.
My young son, Steven, who you know, said to me, hey, Dad, what would it take for me to be on stage? And I said, you haven't done anything yet. He's like, whoa. I said, what, Lucky Supper Club, like whatever spoon club, like last name? I don't think so, kid. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to earn that spot? And he said to me, well, what would I have to do? I said, you have to make 200 outbound calls a day and book 8 to 9 appointments every single day as an SDR for my team. And even then, I'm not sure if 3 months warrants even 1 second on that stage. Maybe in 2 years, when you've now done 100,000 dials, you will now have the emotional intelligence to understand. He's been doing it every single day, right?
Good for him.
You took on that same challenge. So you went from a very busy executive schedule, meetings and trainings and Gotta Minutes and working with managers and looking at spreadsheets and all these great things that have helped you run this great business, to now you're spending 3 hours a day on the phones?
Every single day.
Please unpack that for us. What does that mean, you're on the phone 3 hours a day?
Well, so a few things. I think part of this kind of thing has been a journey in leadership for me. And it's been kind of understanding I have totally changed my thought process about what it means to be a leader. I've changed my thought process about how people kind of, what my whole company thinks about what I do. So the first thing that I did was I committed to doing my power hours on the floor with my agents.
Yes.
And so I moved out of my office and I sit on the floor probably 5 hours a day at very least right now, in the middle with all of my agents, and we're laughing and we're joking, and I'm AirPods in or headset on in my CRM from the recruiting perspective, right? But even starting before that, I role play 5 days a week on my drive to the office. I've got a great group of role play partners, and we're role playing recruiting scripts. And then getting to the office and really being very intentional, much like an agent with buyers and sellers, about understanding who to call, what conversations to have, nurture campaigns and the cadence of conversation, and phone calls, text messages, emails, social media, like outreach and all of that kind of stuff, to the end goal of booking strong appointments with people who are going to be aligned with where we can help them or with what we're doing. And just holding myself really accountable to my own KPIs.
So in February, you had 72 to 75 agents. As we sit here and record this, it's almost the end of June, going into the second half of the year. How many agents do you have in the business now?
So we have 115 onboarded, and
congratulations.
Thank you. And I just got note that I had a first interview last week, and Jason, back at the office manning the ship for me, just met with 2 more, and they are starting on Saturday.
Congratulations.
So yeah, so super exciting.
How long in your time as an owner, time as a team leader, had you been fantasizing about having 100 plus agents?
It has been this like elusive milestone, and I have spoken to, like, I've got my accountability group every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I would say, like, I'd get to like 100 and then I'd dip to 90, right? Because of the way that normal attrition happens. And I'd get to 105 and then I'd dip to 85. Or I'd get to like 99 and then I'd dip to 95. And it was, I think you and I have been talking about it for probably the better part of a year. And that I would get there and I could never quite crack it. So it's been a long time.
So how does it feel to be at that number now? I mean, do you get some sense of reward?
Yes, but then I'm always like, that's not good enough.
Well, we talked about in that session a couple of times ago, which was like, well, at this pace, where could we be if you maintain this? Right. So I'm not asking you to make a public declaration on the podcast. I think you should acknowledge that what you've done has been remarkable. It is
Thank you.
I think for anyone listening, it is, wow, okay, so I'm an experienced veteran in the high end on the West Coast where things have been a little complicated and challenging, but I'm not calling even my past clients, let alone doing it 2 to 3 hours a day, right? And then we have friends that we know in the industry that do that, and they seem to be outperforming the market. There is that correlation right now of just velocity, work ethic, making the calls, whatever you want to call it. It's all of that. So what were the biggest mistakes you made doing it? Looking back, if you had to start over again, what would you have done to accelerate results faster? Let's talk sort of tactically about just, all things attraction, because that's really what we're doing. We're going direct to consumer, direct to agents. It could be FSBOs expired, it could be past clients, it could be Circle Dial, it could be 8 million other things. It's all the same. What would have sped it up? What were some of the early mistakes?
So the first was not spending enough time understanding the script for the avatar that I was calling. And so on the recruiting side, every agent has a different, an agent on a team might be an expired. They didn't have a great, experience on another team. An agent who has had decreasing production is a different avatar versus the brand new into the industry agent, right? And so same thing with calling buyers and sellers, being able, if I hit a seller from a cold call with an expired script, it's not going to work. And if I try to hit a first-time buyer with a move-up buyer script, it's not going to work. So being really clear on who I was calling, and just to
point out, and just one generic script across all also will only work now and then.
Correct.
So always rule number 1 is know thy customer.
100%.
Who am I contacting? What are their pain points? Could you use, or have you used things like ChatGPT to say, let's create an avatar? So real estate agent in New England who last year sold 15 homes is now sitting at 3 halfway through the year. What are the pain, emotion, feelings? What are the conversations they're having inside their head about the business? And let ChatGPT go, and then say, can you convert that into 3 opening lines and 5 opening, have you done any of that stuff?
So I didn't go to the last step. I did do what are the pain points and what are some of the emotions. And that just ties into, how do I get them to engage? What are the basics?
How do I speak directly to their pain and into their heart and head?
And get them to it. Because if I'm cold calling you and just starting with a conversation, it's really hard to want to talk to me if I'm not speaking to something that's current in your existence.
Imagine if you could sit down over the course of 3 days with 82 different agents and team leaders who combined sold more than 6,000 homes in the last 12 months, where they broke down in detail how they generate a steady flow of listings in this market. Everything from the marketing they use, the checklist to get it done and organized and be consistent, the scripts and dialogues, the follow-up strategies, the tools, and more to implement it. That is my promise of this year's Success Summit. In this environment, you can no longer be asking yourself how. Instead, you've got to find plays that work and simply run them. Race to tomferry.com, book your reservation, make sure that you absolutely position yourself above and beyond in your marketplace, truly becoming the market of one. All right, so I'm putting you on the spot. So last year I sold 9 houses.
Yep.
I did $7 million in sales, and I'm at 2 closed and no escrows right now, and it's almost July 1st.
Yep.
Ring, ring, ring. Hello.
Hey, Tom, this is Lisa with Chinatti Realty. How are you?
Hey, Lisa, what's going on?
Well, listen, Tom, I'm reaching out because I know that you are a super successful agent in the greater Boston area. I know last year you had an amazing year, and we've got a really great opportunity that's opened up as our lead generation has really increased heading into the summer market. Something that I've been hearing from agents much like yourself is that if you only had more opportunities directly face-to-face with somebody who's looking to buy or sell in today's market with the rates where they're at, that would be beneficial to you. Would you be open to a conversation about how this could help you?
Are you recruiting me right now? Is this a recruiting call?
Potentially. If I have some options that will help you increase your business, earn more money, and potentially have a little bit more fun, would it be worth 5 or 10 minutes?
Now, for my listener, I was literally sitting there thinking about what would it be like to have had 7 paychecks and be sitting here in June having a conversation with my wife and kids about summer plans. I've only had 2 closings. I have no listings. I have no escrows. And I I was just staying in that, and you're like, and there's just an opportunity opened up, leads, appointments. It's hard to say no to that. What are the most common objections you get with a line like that, or an opening statement like that?
So the first is, I'm happy where I'm not at. I'm not open to an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think one of the mistakes that I see, even my own recruiters, when we're not role playing enough through it, make is that they're like, okay, right? It's just like the seller who's not interested right now.
Yeah. How do you get beyond? So we would call that the smoke screen no.
Right.
Right. Because no one says, oh my God, I'm desperate. Thank you so much for calling. Let's get started.
Right. Never.
But they say, yeah, I'm good right now. I love my broker. Like everything's fine. Because that's just I don't want to actually say I'm so far behind.
Right. No, never.
So how do you go beyond that?
So it's a lot of it's fascinating because we're here at this Phil Jones event kind of talking about questions.
Yes.
And it's a big part of it. And it's kind of reading the tone of the person on the other side,
yes.
right? And being able to ask a question, you're happy where you're at. That's amazing. How do you find navigating this market? Some of our agents have really been struggling and, or whatever kind of tone you open up with, whether it's mad or frustrated or just like really low energy. And the more that we can ask questions and then get them to lead us down to I know if I've pulled up your stats and you sold 9 million last year.
Yes.
And you've only closed 2.
Yes.
I know something's wrong.
For sure.
I just need to get you to open up.
Yeah. And you can't just go, hey, look, I know you're only at 2 closed.
Nope.
And, you suck. Right? So there is, I think, so much empathy required, right? And sort of emotional intelligence to have that conversation without disclosing, I know you're in trouble. Because the truth is, you always have to put yourself in the other person's shoes. They might be the husband of a high-powered, executive.
Yep.
And the fact they did 9 deals last year meant absolutely nothing, right? And it's just play money for them, right? So it's really
100%.
it's the empathy, it's listening, it's exploring, and getting over that hurdle, because it's no different from, you and I are like, oh my God, we need an outfit for tonight's, thing. We're going to Dave Chappelle tomorrow. Let's race in the mall, and someone goes, hi, can I help you? We go,
all set.
no, we're just looking, right? Which is what everybody does. You got to get over that. So that was very nice. What was the hardest part in the ego of a CEO of a company to go from, the shiny office, the big desk, all those spreadsheets, to out on the sales floor with your team making phone calls?
So it was twofold. The first is the drunk monkey, and I lived with this one for a while, which is my agents don't want to see the company grow, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that...
How to get over that story.
Yep. It's understanding, I think, when you've got the right people, one of the things that we talk about within the company now is that we're in partnership, right? And our partnership enables us to both do big things. And the bigger the company gets, the bigger it helps us help our agents become.
Yes.
And they've become some of my biggest cheerleaders,
right? Which
has been really kind of fun.
Right.
And so the first part was getting over that drunk monkey, that they're not going to want to see it. The second one was they're going to think I suck on the phone, right? And
yes, I get that.
Right? Legitimately, that was the other one. I actually don't mind. I love sitting out there because I think it enables us to we joke, right? And sometimes like they'll hear my side of the conversation and I'll hang up the phone and I'll, Mother, he only sold 2 houses and he's telling me life is good and I know it's not, right? And the agents laugh with me and we joke about it.
Right.
But that has opened up, I think I sometimes got stuck in the I'm not approachable kind of vibe, especially when you sit in the office and even though my walls are glass.
And you have like 3 screens in front of you and you're, knee deep in your spreadsheet trying to analyze some, data point.
Right. And like, so
it's not exactly inviting for people like, hey, got a minute?
Right.
Yes.
But so it's created this just like really open, great thing. But I think one of the other things that I didn't anticipate that would come out of it that also helped move the company forward is I was hearing some of the conversations that were happening from the agents.
Bingo.
So it became really great coaching opportunities.
Yes.
Not just about their scripts, which is I think sometimes what they thought, that I was just going to be sitting there listening to them, and that in the first couple of weeks, everybody was kind of nervous to make calls around me, which I found fascinating.
For sure. Well, intimidating, right? Same reason of the intimidation, just in reverse.
Right. But then as I was sitting out there and I could hear people talking about transactions or talking about like struggles that they were having, and it opened up these really cool group discussions. And it, I think, has kind of helped our retention.
Yes.
I think it's helping recruiting. I think it's helping our deal stickiness. I think it's helping us get more offers accepted. It's creating like this really cool collaborative culture.
I get it. So it's hard to sit with someone that doesn't have a strong reason or motivation to do something and say to them, knock on doors, make phone calls, do open houses, buy leads, send an email, check in with your past clients, throw a party, do anything, right? Just do smoke signals, right?
Yep.
How have you at this stage of your career continued to light the fire? And what advice do you have for the listener who might be like, okay, I get it. Like I've seen her on stage and oh my God, but she's always, I just, the last couple of years have just been hard. It's been, I ran 1,000,000 miles an hour, now it's a different hard and we get it. Like I get it. You get it. You get it. Like if you don't have some level of emotional energy, fire in the belly, it's hard to do the things that are uncomfortable. So what advice do you have? What have you done? And what advice do you have for the listener to just ignite the fire again?
So I think for me, big epiphany that I've kind of had also through this first half of the year is that I need to always kind of be doing something different.
Yeah.
And I think when you get stuck in the monotony of it, or just kind of seeing it as I'm always working with buyers or I'm always just listing the same thing over and over, I think that's where it gets really tricky. I think if you can kind of look at it and say, is there an extra skill that you're layering on?
Right.
Is it moving the needle?
Right.
Part of kind of what you and I have talked about is the what's beyond real estate. And that really, I think it was a great conversation that we had last week.
Yeah.
Because it's pushing me already to see beyond it in a different way. And so being able to see much bigger picture has been like game changing. And there's a lot that I think is still going to unfold with that.
Oh yeah. We're not talking about that yet on the show though.
We're not.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
But we will say that I said to you, I've had 3 moments like that in my career as an advisor, as a coach, mentor, whatever. And I knew that conversation was the 3rd one when we had it.
Yep. It will. In that conversation, like the emotion is real.
Yes.
Like, and I don't often feel that.
Yep.
So the emotion there will carry me through to the end.
Right.
And I think after that conversation, whole new pivot on it. Right. So
big time.
But finding that one thing that it was like, this is it's the same thing we talk about with our agents. What's the why?
Right.
And I think being able to understand that it changes over time.
So I'm going to say to the listener who's like, what's the grand reveal? Like, well, we'll share when the timing is right. But here's the context, right, for you. What Lisa said is exactly right. Jay Abraham, my mentor and friend forever, would say every business, right? I forget who said it first, and it'll come to me, is every business is about innovation and marketing, right? And the second you stop innovating, doing something new, right, you get stale. And the second you stop marketing, you go out of business. So it's that constant battle of new innovation, but the right innovation, choosing the right next new.
Right.
So ask yourself, when was the last time you added something new to your business that you knew was right, you knew it was going to bring value to the consumers, you knew you were going to do more business, and you also knew that you had to learn a lot to get there, right? That you couldn't just implement it, right? That you would have to go through the J curve and that whole experience to get to that level of success that you wanted. Jay would say to me all the time, every 18 months, you have to ask yourself, how am I disrupting myself?
Yes.
How am I disrupting my own business? Because trust me, there are thousands of agents in your marketplace that are trying to figure out how to take you out, not in a bad way, but they just want every transaction that you're doing, right? They want, like, and you know it because the person watching, and you know it because you looked at others in your market and said, put a bullseye on their back, let's go, right? So if you're not innovating, right, but innovating with the right purpose, innovating with the customer in mind, in this case, the customer is your agents, right?
Correct.
And you might say the customer is, my buyers and sellers. So that's one. But the other thing is going back to like, tick-tock, life is short. What's my real legacy going to be? Right? That was kind of the dialogue. Like, okay, you're successful, right? And you and your husband and your daughters, like you guys have created this magical life, but you're also very young, right? So what's next? And not for the person listening, what's next, go lead the industry. What's next that will give more purpose to what you're doing, more like transcend beyond like, of course I'm gonna make my phone calls, or of course I'm gonna do this because I'm doing this for that, right? That's when it starts to connect the dots. That's where I go back to my other mentor, Mike Vance, and his partner, Diane Deacon. They would say, every one of these amazing companies we ever worked with, like the founder had something that was beyond just the widget of what they were selling, or Walt Disney, creating theme parks. He just wanted every kid to smile. Right? So working 37 hours a day meant nothing to Walt because it was about all these kids smiling, right? And how many kids are there? Well, there's a couple billion, so I got to get to all of them, right? So, and that I think is what we're talking about here, right?
Yep.
So as we wrap this up, it's almost July. I'm going to challenge you. On December 31st, 2023, how many agents will you have in the business, happy, productive, selling houses and rocking?
Minimum 175. The ideal world is 200. And I think some of it's going to be the seasonality.
For sure. But
175 to 200.
I love that number. And this has been an interesting year because in years past, any recruiter would tell you that it's more the end of the year when agents want to make a move. But what we've seen through the pandemic and certainly through this year is that sort of the agent migration patterns have changed dramatically. That it's just like, I'm ready. Now, I don't have any listings. I don't have any escrows. Like there's still that element of when most people would make a move, but you're seeing it a lot more frequently now. I'm not recommending that you switch companies. I'm just letting you know, like that's more the migration pattern today. So 175 to 200?
Yeah, totally.
I love it. All right. Closing thoughts for the person listening?
I think just do it. Action, right? Like it's getting out of your own way and taking action on whatever it is.
Yeah.
And starting small. It doesn't have to be going from doing no phone calls to doing 5 hours a day of phone calls. And the small incremental change of no phone calls to an hour a day of phone calls is enough to move the needle.
Yes. And I would say the reminder of the great study that says when you drop somebody in a forest and they find themselves intentionally lost, you're putting them in a place where they don't know where they are. 95% of the people will walk aimlessly in circles, usually based upon what leg is right or left dominant, or what leg right or left is smaller than the other, even by like a millimeter. And they will go in circles and they will find themselves saying this: I've been here before. Yep. I've seen that tree. And they're just walking aimlessly, circles. And I liken that to how many people I know in the industry, how many CEOs have found themselves, salespeople, business leaders like you, repeating the same year over and over and over and over. And when you do the research on this and you look at the studies, what they all say is that the people that weren't that aimlessly walking in circles, they're not bad people. They're just walking in circles, right? The other ones had a reference point. They said, okay, the sun's setting over there. I'm going to walk that way. the sun is rising over here. I'm going to walk that way. That appears to be the tallest mountain. That line of trees seems to be more significant. So there's a pretty good chance that there's water there. And if I find the water, I can follow the path. They had a point of reference. They had an intention, a purpose, a goal that was super important to them. And I would make the argument when you look at the stats on the MLSs today, which I'm going to reveal at the summit this year, that a lot of people are going to freak out because the delta between the rich and the rest got much more extreme this year than it ever has, especially on the listing attraction side. And I would make the argument it is a few people have a reference point, a direction, and a reason why they're going there. For these people lost in a forest, it was very obvious, survival. These people walking in a circle, they also wanted to survive, but they just kind of kept doing the same thing over and over again and never got that clear direction of where I'm going and then started marching their face off to get there. So I'd take the combination of the two and ask yourself, what are you going to do? Thank you always for being on the show. Thank you for making your public declaration. 175 to 200. Here we go. What's yours? Let me know in the comments, and I can't wait to see you at this year's summit. See you soon.